So, good evening, everybody. We're a little late. I was telling people about the situation in Washington, D.C. tonight, because we're going to be meditating on compassion, and the U.S. government is totally dysfunctional. So I thought it would be very good to put the entire U.S. Congress in our as objects of our compassion while we're meditating on compassion this evening. So I took some time to tell all the people here at the Abbey what the situation was. Okay, so we will start with watching our breath and then doing our practice, as we usually do. And so here I think it is good, when we generate the visualization with the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas in front and ourselves surrounded by all the sentient beings, that we include members of the U.S. Congress and members of ISIS and Netanyahu, who knows what he's thinking about these days. But, all these people who have a lot of power in the world and can influence other people's lives, to include them in the scope of our compassion, as well as all the people who we have personal grudges and stuff with. Okay? So let's start with our breath. And then in the space in front, visualize the Buddha surrounded by all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, and ourselves surrounded by all sentient beings. And then as we're reciting the various verses, let's think that we're leading all the sentient beings in reciting them and in generating the thoughts that are contained in those verses. I take refuge until I have awakened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, by the merit I create by engaging in generosity and the other far-reaching practices. May I attain Buddhahood in order to benefit all sentient beings. I take refuge until I have awakened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, by the merit I create by engaging in generosity and the other far-reaching practices. May I attain Buddhahood in order to benefit all sentient beings. I take refuge until I have awakened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. By the merit I create by engaging in generosity and the other far-reaching practices, may I attain Buddhahood in order to benefit all sentient beings. May all sentient beings have happiness and its causes. May all sentient beings be free of suffering and its causes. May all sentient beings not be separated from sorrowless bliss. May all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free of bias, attachment, and anger. Reverently I prostrate with my body, speech, and mind, and present clouds of every type of offering, actual and mentally transformed. I confess all my destructive actions accumulated since beginningless time, and rejoice in the virtues of all holy and ordinary beings. Please remain until cyclic existence ends, and turn the wheel of Dharma for sentient beings. I dedicate all the virtues of myself and others to the Great Awakening. This ground anointed with perfume, flower-strewn Mount Meru, four-land, sun and moon, imagined as a Buddha land and offered to you. May all beings enjoy this pure land. Venerable holy gurus, in the space of your truth body, from billowing clouds of your wisdom and love, let fall the rain of the profound and extensive Dharma, in whatever form is suitable for subduing sentient beings. Guru Ratna Mandala Kam Niryatayami. Glorious and precious Root Guru, sit upon the lotus and moon seat on my crown, guiding me with your great kindness. Bestow upon me the attainments of your body, speech, and mind, the eyes through whom the vast scriptures are seen, supreme doors for the fortunate who would cross over to spiritual freedom, illuminators whose wise means vibrate with compassion. To the entire line of spiritual mentors I make request. Tayata Mani Mani Mahamani Asoha. Tayata Mani Mani Mahamani Asoha. Tayata Mani Mani Mahamani Asoha. Tayata Muni Muni Mahamuni 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 Asoha. So take a minute and remember equanimity, reducing the feelings of attachment for friends, aversion towards enemies, and apathy towards strangers. So remember that feeling, remember the reasons why to have equanimity. Then recall that all sentient beings have been your mother throughout beginningless time, many times. So you've had this very close relationship with them. And then thinking of the kindness of your own mother, generalize that to all sentient beings. And you can also think of the kindness of animal mothers and how all these sentient beings in so many different life forms have taken care of us as their young ones throughout beginningless time. So really feel that kindness and see it as coming from all the sentient beings. And from reflecting on that, let arise within you the wish to repay their kindness. And then recalling the meditation on love that we did last week. Wishing that sentient beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. Reflect a little bit about what happiness is, what its causes are, and then wish that for sentient beings, beginning with people that you care about deeply, and then to strangers, and then to people you have difficulty with. And hopefully that won't be too difficult because you've developed some equanimity from the very beginning. And so you'll be able to wish everybody well. And then to meditate on compassion, which is the wish for sentient beings to be free of pain and all the different forms of dukkha, including changeable dukkha and the dukkha of pervasive conditioning. So we want them to be free of that and of its causes. So we'll meditate on compassion. Okay, so remember that the Guru Buddha is on your head. And then first imagine a very miserable being in the throes of suffering, such as a sheep being slaughtered by a butcher. So for this, first clearly picture the animal before you, its limbs bound, its chest cut open, the butcher plunging his hand inside its chest, and this terrified animal knowing perfectly well that it's going to die. So imagine that and contemplate the way this torment creates great anguish in the poor animal. Then think of all the sentient beings who are experiencing gross physical or mental pain right now. And then think, wouldn't it be wonderful if this sheep and all these other beings were free of dukkha and the causes of dukkha? May they be free of dukkha and all of its causes. I shall ensure that it is free of dukkha and its causes. So I'm going to get involved and do something. And Guru Buddha, please inspire me to be able to do so. And then think of people who have committed a variety of negativities and non-virtues. Those who have used the Sangha's belongings carelessly, who have observed ethics badly, who have abandoned the Dharma, who have held false views, or harmed sentient beings. And think of all these people and remember that they're just trying to be happy. And yet look at what they're doing and the negativity they're creating in their attempts to be happy. And think, now, due to their actions and their conduct, they are unhappy in this present life, and without a doubt will be reborn in a lower realm as soon as they die. once born there, they will have to endure the various kinds of intense suffering for extremely long periods of time. So all these people who may look very well and be quite prosperous now, but because of creating great negativities, will within not many years be born in the lower realms and experience great suffering for a long time. And they're completely oblivious to their situation. Totally don't even think about it. And so think, I wish they were free of dukkha and the causes of dukkha. May they be free of dukkha and the causes of dukkha. I shall ensure that they are free of dukkha and of all of its causes. Guru Buddha, please inspire me to be able to do so. So now think of beings that you're quite fond of. And think of strangers and think of people that you don't care much about either. And then looking at their lives, think, having made all kinds of effort for the sake of this life's concern, and having labeled others as friends and enemies, all these sentient beings are subjected to both manifest dukkha, so explicit, obvious pain, and the dukkha of change. As such, they have never had a moment's peace. Being involved in wrongdoing in this life, virtuous states of mind hardly ever arise in them. And as a result, the moment they die, they will take rebirth in a lower realm and be obliged to undergo various kinds of intense misery for long periods of time. So we're not talking about abstracts, we're talking about people that we know. Whether we like them or don't like them doesn't matter. We're talking about, a very real situation. Wouldn't it be wonderful if they were free of dukkha and the causes of dukkha? Imagine them being free. Imagine them not having the afflictions and the karma that bring them so much gross suffering, as well as keep them trapped in samsara. May they be free of dukkha and the causes of dukkha. I shall ensure that they are free of dukkha and of its causes. And Guru Buddha, please inspire me to be able to do so. So in response to your requesting the Guru of Buddha, 5-colored light and nectar stream from all the parts of his body into you through the crown of your head. It absorbs into your body and mind and into those of all sentient beings. And it's purifying all obstacles to your being effective in being able to prevent them from experiencing this kind of suffering and dukkha. And it brings all the blessings and inspiration so that you can be effective in leading and teaching these beings. So the light and nectar purifies all your negativities and obstructions accumulated since beginningless time. And especially purifies all illnesses, interferences, negativities, and obscurations that interfere with ensuring that these mothers are free of dukkha and of all of its causes. So in your heart you want very much to help, and instead of feeling helpless, feel that from your own side all those impediments are gone. And from the side of other sentient beings also, they become more receptive. Your body becomes translucent, the nature of light. And all your good qualities, lifespan, merit, and so forth, expand and increase. And think in particular that a superior realization of the intention to ensure that these mothers are free of dukkha, and all of the causes of dukkha has arisen in your mind stream and also in the mind streams of all others. So these are important meditations, and they really change our mind when we can get into them. Yeah. He continues on with more meditations about the superior intention and bodhicitta, but I think I'll just read those so you get the transmission, and then in the week to come, please lead yourself through those meditations, okay? So the text says, once in this way you have had a transformational experience of love and compassion. Okay, so once you've gotten some experience, yeah, then meditate on the superior intention as follows. So the superior intention, well, you'll see what it is, but we're really stepping up to the plate here and saying, I'm going to be involved and I'm going to do something for the welfare of sentient beings. So our author says, while meditating with the Guru Buddha on your head, then think, I shall ensure that all sentient beings undergoing dukkha and deprived of happiness are free of dukkha and the causes of dukkha. It's a pretty big pledge, isn't it? But what else are we going to do? I shall ensure that they find happiness and the causes of happiness. I shall ensure, especially, that all mother sentient beings attain complete and perfect Buddhahood, in which the two obscurations, along with their latencies, have been overcome. So the two obscurations are, first, the afflictive obscurations. So those are what prevents us from attaining liberation. So it's the afflictions, especially the root affliction of ignorance, plus the seeds of those afflictions, and all the polluted karma that causes rebirth that we created, motivated by those afflictions. Okay, when we talk about the seeds of the afflictions, what we're talking about is, okay, for example, right now, we may not be angry. I hope nobody here is angry. Yeah, but we haven't eliminated anger from our mind stream totally. Yeah, all there needs to be is a change in circumstance and our anger will flare up. So what is it that connects, moments of manifest anger when you may have time in between them when you're not angry at all? What that is the seed of the anger, okay? So it goes into more of a latent or seed form when there's no manifest anger, but because we're not free of the seeds, then some situation changes and then again we get angry. Okay, so we have to eliminate not only the afflictions, but also their seeds. And then also the karma that causes rebirth. Okay, So that's important, to be free of cyclic existence. Yeah, and that with that point we attain arhatship. But then you still have the cognitive obscurations. So the cognitive obscurations are much more subtle. Yeah, they're the latencies of the afflictions, especially the latency of ignorance. So the latency is kind of like the stain that's left behind. Yeah, you don't have ignorance in your mind anymore, or anger or attachment, but there's a stain in your mind stream from having had them so long. Okay? And so those latencies also cause us to have dualistic appearance, which means that we cannot simultaneously perceive both conventional truths and ultimate truths. Yeah. And so because there's this obscuration in the mind, we can't be of the greatest benefit to sentient beings, even if we've eliminated the afflictive obscurations, because we still aren't omniscient. We still can't see what's going on with sentient beings and know all of their karma and how best to benefit them. Yeah. So we have to be free of these cognitive obscurations as well. Yeah, the latencies and this subtle dualistic view. Okay, so here that's what we're making the request, or, we're making the determination and then requesting the Guru Buddha to inspire us to be able to do so. Because it's a pretty hefty determination, okay? And so when we think of all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas who have done this and are doing it, then we don't feel alone in making this kind of determination, and we know that they are giving us their support and their encouragement, and so we think that, and when the light is coming in, the light and nectar that we visualize coming in afterwards, after we make this request, then we really feel connected to our objects of refuge and know that they're supporting and encouraging and inspiring us in making this kind of determination. And then it says, think in particular that a superior realization of the intention to ensure that all mother sentient beings attain complete and perfect Buddhahood, in which the two kinds of obstructions, along with their latencies, have been eradicated, has arisen in your mind and in the mind stream of others. Okay, so that's, we've been going through the 7-point instruction on cause and effect instruction for developing bodhicitta. Okay, so equanimity was the foundation. Then first one was remembering sentient beings are our mothers. Second is remembering their kindness. Third is wanting to repay it. Fourth is affectionate love. Fifth is compassion that we meditated on. Sixth is the superior intention that we just read. And so those 6 are the causes. And then the one result that comes from that is bodhicitta. And so that's what the next topic is, okay? So he says next to meditate on bodhicitta while meditating with the Guru Buddha on your head. Then you reflect. And so I'm just reading this, but you have to kind of read it and really do the reflection and understand it, and then you can, see how it changes your mind. So if I ask myself whether I now have the ability to establish all sentient beings in complete and perfect Buddhahood. If you ask yourself that question, do I now have the ability to do that? I have to admit that I do not have the ability to establish so much as a single sentient being in a state of complete and perfect Buddhahood. Even a single sentient being like ourselves. Yeah? Okay, moreover, even if I attained one of the two kinds of arhatship, so as a hearer arhat or a solitary realizer arhat, my work for others' welfare would be partial, and I would lack the ability to lead sentient beings to Buddhahood. So why would your efforts on behalf of sentient beings be partial if you were an arhat?
Because you haven't realized the ultimate. I mean, you haven't eliminated the cognitive obscurations. You can only take them so far. You can only take them to...
But those...
But it's only a partial way.
Oh, so you're reading partial that way. Okay. I'm reading it as... partiality towards others. Yeah. Yeah. So for an arhat, you know, they may have love and compassion, but their own liberation is first and foremost. Yeah. So they lack that impartiality between themselves and others to be able to care for everybody equally. Okay. So my work for others' welfare would be partial, also partial because you haven't eliminated all the obscurations. And I would lack the ability to lead all sentient beings to Buddhahood. And that's where I would put, because you haven't eliminated all the obscurations. Yeah, because when there's still obscurations on the mind, like I said, you can't look at different sentient beings and know what their previous karma was. Whereas when you know what their previous karma was, then you'll know who you have special connection with, and you know, and who you can benefit easily. You will know what kind of interests and dispositions people have, different people have, so you'll know best what to teach them, how to guide them, you know, according to their own individual you know, collection of dispositions and interests and so on. And also, you'll, you know, you'll have the full ability from yourself to do something. You know, because often now we may have a lot of compassion, but, you know, we stop ourselves from acting out of compassion because of attachment, because of fear, because of anger, because of laziness. Yeah. So we want to be totally free of all those gross impediments and also the subtle ones. Okay? So I lack the ability to lead all sentient beings to Buddhahood. So who has this ability? Buddha. Complete and perfect Buddhas do, because of their physical qualities, okay, being perfectly adorned with the signs and marks. So here he's going to talk a little bit about the qualities of a Buddha and, you know, why a Buddha has these abilities. So first he mentioned the Buddha's body, you know, having the 32 signs and the 80 marks. And these are signs and marks that a great being has because of accumulating very vast merit in previous times when they were in the path, you know. And they say that the merit accumulated to receive even one of these signs and marks is already inconceivable, you know. But then in saying that it's this merit, you know, that to produce a Buddha's body is inconceivable, they also say, don't get discouraged because there's many techniques to use so that you can create an inconceivable merit, okay? And bodhicitta, of course, is one of those techniques. Okay, so because of the Buddha's, you know, body, that is, you know, made, it's a mental body, it can appear and disappear, it's wherever the Buddha's mind is. The Buddha can manifest automatically without thinking about it into whoever or whatever some sentient being needs, you know, as long as that being has the karma and the receptivity for it. Okay, a Buddha also has a melodious voice with 60 characteristics that in a single discourse can explain the teaching effortlessly to all sentient beings in each of their languages separately. So when a Buddha speaks, first of all, they don't need a microphone. Everybody hears it. Second of all, everybody hears it in their own language. You don't need translators. Yeah. And everybody hears what they need to hear at that particular time on their journey. Okay? So because of the Buddha's skill in teaching, you know, he can make it so that different people, you know, hear and understand different things according to what is needed at that particular time. Okay, so having the Buddha's speech is something really fantastic. They say of all the Buddha's qualities, it's the Buddha's speech that is the most important for us, because that's how the Buddhas communicate the teachings. Yeah. And then the Buddha's mental qualities: direct perception of all knowable entities on both the conventional and ultimate levels of existence. Impartial compassion for all sentient beings, like a mother for her only child. That never abandons the task of taming them, even for an instant. Okay, so direct perception of all phenomena, both their conventional nature, how they appear and function in the world, and their ultimate nature, their emptiness. Okay, so Buddha understands all of that. And they also have impartial compassion for all sentient beings, in the same way that a parent cherishes their only child. Okay, and they also have, you know, and with their compassion, they never abandon the task of taming them, even for an instant. So no matter how sentient beings act, the Buddha never gives up on them. Yeah. So even if they request teachings and they don't show up for 2 weeks because it's Chinese New Year, the Buddha does not give up on them. They should be very happy about that. Yeah. And no matter how awful we act, you know, our behavior is not fantastic sometimes. The Buddha doesn't give up on us and say, well, this one's supposed to be meditating, but instead they're reading a book. And that one is supposed to be meditating, but they're developing their plan for revenge. And, you know, so the Buddha isn't going to say, oh, you know, I've just instructed all these sentient beings so much, and now they have the perfect opportunity to do retreat, and what are they doing? Yeah. They're reading books, they're plotting revenge, they're daydreaming about everything they're going to do once the retreat is over, all the pleasure they're going to go have, which beach they're going to lie on, you know. So even though we're like that, the Buddhists don't throw up their hands and say, forget it, not worth it, you know. These guys are too much. Yeah, Buddha says, I guess I'll keep showing up, even if they don't. Not like me, who was considering not showing up. Okay. And the Buddhas also have spontaneous and effortless activity, so that every light ray emanated from their body, speech, and mind can establish innumerable sentient beings in the state of omniscience and the like. So a Buddha's body is speech and mind all radiating light simultaneously and having that power to bless and inspire and help transform sentient beings' minds. That does not mean all we have to do is sit there and say, okay, Buddha, shine that light on me. Yeah. And then the Buddha kind of wakes up and kind of emanates, radiates that light, and then we go, okay, I got it now. Because the Buddhas are already doing everything they can to help us. Yeah. We have to make ourselves a receptive vessel. Okay. In brief, since only the Buddhas possess every kind of good quality and are free of every kind of fault, to complete my own goals and others, I must attain Buddhahood. Okay? So having the wish to benefit sentient beings and then seeing the only way to do that is for ourselves to become Buddhas, then making that decision to become a Buddha for the benefit of sentient beings. So I must attain Buddhahood for the sake of all mother sentient beings, by all means. I will quickly realize complete, perfect, and precious Buddhahood. And then when you realize what you just said, you say, Guru Buddha, please inspire me to be able to do so. Yeah, I need some help and inspiration. Okay, then here, when you do this, the visualization is a little bit different than before. So in response to your requesting the Guru Buddha, a duplicate of the Guru Buddha's body comes from him into you through the crown of your head. Okay? So if you already had that duplicate on the crown of your head from before, now that one melts, descends into you. Okay? And it's like one butter lamp lighting another. So you're so close to Guru Buddha's mind that it's like those realizations just come in, like one butter lamp lighting the other, and fill us up. Okay? So the Guru Buddha dissolves into you. And then imagine yourself on a precious throne, both high and wide, supported by 8 great lions, on a seat of a multicolored lotus, and then a sun and a moon disk. And you're in the form of the conqueror Shakyamuni, with a body the color of pure gold, a crown protuberance on your head, 1 face and 2 arms. Your right hand's in the earth-touching position. Your left is in the meditation position, holding an alms bowl full of nectar. Okay, you are elegantly robed in the 3 saffron-colored monastic robes. You sit in Vajra posture in a flood of light emanating from your body. And your body is made of pure light and adorned with the signs and marks of a Buddha. Okay, so by the power of the Guru Buddha dissolving into you, your whole ordinary view of yourself completely vanishes, and you imagine yourself as the Buddha sitting on that throne supported by the 8 snow lions with the lotus on top of it, and then a sun cushion and a moon cushion, and you're sitting on top of it in the form of the Buddha. Okay? Visualizing yourself thus as Munindra, which means the Buddha, emanate your body belongings along with your virtue in the form of 5 colored light and nectar, and offer them to all sentient beings. So you imagine yourself sitting there, you're made of golden light, radiating to sentient beings. And then as, from each of the pores of your body, there's light going out to all of the sentient beings. And on these light rays, you imagine, emanating your body as whatever sentient beings need, of taking your belongings and your possessions and your wealth and multiplying, transforming them, emanating them out so that they're what sentient beings need. And also your virtue, yeah? And so all of this is radiating out in the form of the 5 colored lights and nectar. And you offer that to all the sentient beings. So you're giving them the transformations of your body, of your possessions, and your virtue in the form of this light as it radiates out from you. Okay? And so you meditate like that for a while, and then you imagine that all sentient beings thereby attain the excellent happiness of high rebirth and highest goodness, meaning liberation and full awakening. Okay? So this particular text is quite wonderful in the way that it combines thinking about the Lam Rim with visualization. Yeah? Yeah. It's having you do both of these in one meditation session. So it's really working with both sides of your mind, the logical, critical thinking part of your mind when you do the Lam Rim meditations, and then the part of your mind that works more with symbols, metaphors, analogies, visualization, imaging, So both parts of your mind it works with, to help you get some feeling for these meditations. So really quite beautiful. Okay? And then it says that the way to conclude the meditation session is as before, so dedicating the merit. And then between meditation sessions, read canonical and exegetic, am I saying that right? Exegetic, the treatises and commentaries, those works that explain the topics of love, compassion, and bodhicitta. That's when you're dwelling on this particular meditation. Okay. So, questions, comments before I go on? So do you have to have all the 112 signs and marks memorized in order for your visualization to be 100%? Well, yes, but that doesn't mean you have to do it now. Okay, I think just getting ourselves in the form of the Buddha and imagining a body made of golden light and the Buddha's very sweet expression on his face. You can, the crown protuberance, I'm sure you can get. That could be enough to start with. But as your visualization gets clearer and clearer, then you can hone in on all the various details. Okay. So this is what she's saying is that she was working a lot on this whole series of meditations in the last few weeks. And what she found is the more that she meditated on compassion, the more it helped her equanimity meditation. Because by meditating on compassion, you have to start off thinking of the suffering of these beings and thinking of the negative karma that they've created that causes their suffering. And just thinking of that, helped reduce, let's say, the anger for the enemies and the attachment for the friends, because you saw that everybody is actually equal in this way, including strangers. The situation for all sentient beings, is the same in wanting happiness and yet creating so many causes of suffering. Yeah. So this is a very good example here. You said how the compassion meditation helps you on the equanimity meditation. And this is true when you become very familiar with all the different meditations on the Lamrim. Then you see not only how the earlier ones support the later ones, but you see how the later ones help you understand the early ones better. So this is a good example because, you know, the meditation on compassion comes later, yet it's really helping you develop your equanimity. Yeah, and it probably is helping you even in your meditation about precious human life, because when you think of the suffering of sentient beings and then you think, wow, I have this sliver of time right now to do something, yeah, then the preciousness of having the 8 freedoms and the 10 fortunes, you know, you really begin to see that and feel that in your heart. Okay? Okay, another very good point. Okay, so she was saying that her uncle inherited, was it a sheep farm or cattle farm or slaughterhouse, you know, and raised,
For the meat market that he ran.
Okay, so he ran a meat market, was in charge of the slaughterhouse, slaughtered how many sentient beings, who knows, to support 9 children and put them through school. And you knew him as like this incredibly kind man, yeah? And yet here he was, I mean, in the eyes of all these animals, he was a murderer, yeah? And when you know now as you do about the karma that somebody creates from being a butcher, I mean, it's horrible, dreadful karma. And yet you saw him as this wonderful, loving, caring man. So it's helping you to see that on the basis of one person can have many, many different aspects. And so, you know, they can be a butcher and they can be loving and kind, and it's all put together in one bundle. And that makes you open your mind towards other living beings. And so especially thinking about Jihadi John, this British guy who is seen so often in the videos as the one beheading people, you know, to think that with some people, he's probably incredibly kind and generous also, you know. But you're saying your mind doesn't want to go there to think that about him. But as soon as you think about your uncle, then you realize, well, you have to extend that same thing to him, to Jihadi John as well, you know. And to see that people are not just one thing. Yeah, we can't draw a caricature of somebody and say that's all they are. Yeah. So this kind of, the way you're thinking, and especially relating it to your life and to people you know, it really brings it home. Yeah, it's not theoretical, you know. Oh, all these suffering sentient beings somewhere, that I should feel equanimous about, but I don't, you know. But when you really think about that example with your uncle, yeah, then, you know, oh, this really makes sense, you know. And so that helps very much to transform the mind. Okay, so it's very easy to think of sentient beings being loving and kind and generate equanimity and love and compassion for them, as long as you're sitting here and you're safe. But as soon as you even think of somebody harming you, then the mind goes, ah! No way! You know, these sentient beings, they're awful, and I've got to protect myself, and I don't have equanimity for them and everything. So what do? Okay? That's when you look at that time when your mind is going, ah, you know, how dare they do something to me? That's when you really have a very clear image of the self-centered thought. Yeah. It's very clear at that time. And we'll be talking more about the self-centered thought, you know, in the upcoming teachings. But especially when you've done some meditation on the faults of the self-centered thought, then when that feeling comes up, Yeah, and it seems like it's so sincerely on your side looking out for your welfare, then you remember its faults and its disadvantages. Yeah, how it's the source of creating so much negative karma since beginningless time. And then you turn and you point at that self-centered thought and said, thanks, but no thanks. You know, you're the thief. I'm not buying into this. Okay? But to really feel that, we have to do a lot of meditation, exploring the drawbacks of the self-centeredness, and to really train our mind to see so clearly how our self-centeredness has caused us so much anguish and so much torment for years and lifetimes and eons. You know? And we have to be really firmly convinced about that. One of the things when somebody is harming us is to realize that this harm is coming my way because of my own negative karma. If I hadn't had created the cause, this would not be happening to me right now. And so in that way, take responsibility for it ourselves and say, well, I'm glad, okay, now this karma is ripening and it's over. Yeah. But then when you really think deeply about it, yeah, this person's harming you. Yeah, you're kind of getting a good deal because your negative karma is getting expedited, whatever it is, used up. But that person who's harming you is creating incredible negative karma. And they're going to experience misfortune and more pain and suffering in previous lives. Yeah. Oh, in future lives, sorry, yeah, in future lives. And so then bringing forth a sense of compassion for them. So the first thing you have to do is what you did, is thinking, this is due to my karma, because that prevents the anger from arising. And we have to get rid of the anger before we can even think about compassion, you know, because if you went straight to, oh, they're going to suffer a lot from hurting me, if we haven't, you know, gotten rid of our anger, then we'll say, oh, good. Yeah. So we have to get rid of our anger. And then, you know, when we're really practicing well, then be able to look at that person and say, wow, I have compassion for them for what they're doing. Yeah. So when we feel the pain of our loved ones suffering, for example, seeing somebody we love very much get dementia, then how can we overcome that? So this person is talking about the pain of our personal distress. Yeah, that we're seeing somebody in a state and it pains us tremendously to see them in that state. So how to get rid of our own personal distress. One way, in the situation of dementia, okay, which I know well, with especially my dad, is, and with my dad, basically, I just accepted him for who he was. You know, it's like, if you're going to live to be that old, this is what happens. It's natural. And I just loved him for who he was. Even when I was talking about two Newport cities, each with having the same houses, and you know, how he's at one, but it's not his real house, his other house is really at the other Newport beach. But you know, I just loved him for that. I don't, you know, he's not the person that he was when he was young, but I just dropped that expectation of him remaining who he was, you know, forever, because clearly that's not going to happen. Yeah, and so you just love them for what they are, appreciate them for what they are, and And that's it. Yeah, I mean, it's really a thing of getting rid of our expectations, because it's our expectations in our mind that says, but this person's got to be permanent. They were like this when they were younger. How can they change? You know, I thought they had a permanent personality, even though the Buddha's been teaching about impermanence since his very first teaching to his last teaching, and I've heard my teachers say it gazillions of times. I still think this person's got to be permanent, you know, and say, oh, this is, you know, I haven't meditated enough on impermanence. I haven't really taken it, the fact of impermanence into my heart, yeah, and realize that this is, you know, my distress is caused by my unrealistic expectation. Yeah? How did you handle your parents' dementia?
So both my parents had dementia. In the first year, they were both still at home. And I was sitting beside my mom one day on the couch. And my dad came out of his bedroom, stark naked. And so this is a man who was very, very shy. We never ever saw his legs, even in shorts. And he comes out totally naked. And so my mom goes like this to me. She elbows me and she says, "Oh, for God's sake, look at that." And then she said in a really loud voice, "Dementia, dementia, dementia." She said that to me about her husband. Dementia, dementia, dementia. And she was just shaking her head, and she said, "Oh, Ken, for God's sake, put something on." And he just sort of, he was at this point where he was feeling the walls, because, you know, he used to be an electrician, and he was doing his work, and he said, "I'm busy working, leave me alone." So then, you know, there are things like that. There are other times where it was just, you know, heartbreaking to see their own misery in knowing that their mind wasn't working. There was that, and that was heartbreaking. But then my mom had the gift of, you know, having, you know, she was also almost blind at this point, but she could sit down at the piano and play for hours. And so in that moment, she was in control, and she knew that she was making people happy, and there was something that she could offer, and that was remarkable. So.
Okay. Okay, so I hope that's helpful. No, it's fine. If it comes easy, that's great. But then, as they say, the real proof of the pudding is in your daily life what happens. Okay? And sometimes we think that compassion means like just this heart-wrenching, oh my God, you know, how am I gonna look at this dog? He's limping. I just can't bear to see this dog limp. It's touching me so much, my compassion, you know. So that's, don't think compassion has to be dramatic, okay, like that. Because if you get that dramatic every time you see a dog limping, you're not going to be able to do anything to help anybody. Yeah? And you're not going to be able to think clearly about what is a good way to handle the problem. Okay? So compassion very much needs to be combined with wisdom. Yeah. I remember once when I lived in France, we did a skit about Mickey Mouse Bodhisattva. You know, Mickey Mouse Bodhisattva, who took the money from the Dharma Center to give it to everybody else so that they could go buy drugs and everything they wanted, and then the Dharma Centers broke. It was a great skit, you know, but it really emphasized that, you know, compassion may come easily to us, but we have to make sure it's compassion that's linked with wisdom. Yeah? And you know, the real proof of the compassion is what happens in our daily life. Don't you think? Yeah? So meditation is the time we really develop it and cultivate it, and it may come easily then, but then to really put it into practice in daily life is that's where we see what's happening. That's like the Tibetans always tell the story of this person, some meditator in the mountains, who was meditating on fortitude and being able to bear the suffering and bear criticism and everything. So he was a fantastic meditator on fortitude and patience. All of this came very, very easily to him in meditation. But he went down to the village one day to get supplies, and when he was there, somebody looked at him and said, "Oh, you old jerk," or said something like that to him. And he got furious with that guy. Yeah? And then it was like, what was I meditating on that whole time where I thought that it all came so easily to me, but here somebody calls me a name in the marketplace and I just blow up. Yeah? So that's very good. The person said that they knew that at some time in their previous lives they were in the position of that sheep, and then to make sure that we never create that kind of thing again. So, one way to start doing that is to be vegetarian. Yeah? Because then nobody's going to be killing animals for your sake to eat them. Yeah, so you're talking about the way that bodhicitta and the wisdom realizing emptiness really, really enforce each other, because to continue to generate bodhicitta, an understanding of emptiness is very helpful, because then you understand why sentient beings are experiencing dukkha, and you know also that it can be eliminated, because when they're able to realize emptiness, then it can cut the root of samsara, the ignorance that grasps at true existence. And so knowing that helps you to develop stronger bodhicitta. And similarly, when your bodhicitta is stronger, then you really see how important it is to realize emptiness, because without oneself realizing emptiness and using that to purify our mind, then our ability to act with love and compassion and bodhicitta is really encumbered and hindered. Okay, so I know that they're thinking something about revenge, and how do I hold them? Yeah, I would think that they're suffering from ignorance at that time. Yeah, that their ignorance is not only the ignorance of the ultimate nature, but their ignorance about karma and effect and how that works is completely obscuring their mind, and that they're stuck in this mind wanting revenge, and that mind that wants revenge is an incredibly unhappy mind. Isn't it? There's a lot of suffering. And so I would try and approach that person and talk to them in some way. And here's where NVC, I think, would come in and say, your mind is really painful now, isn't it? You're feeling a lot of anger, and you really feel the need. You would like some peace of mind, but you would also like some justice. And try and, initiate some kind of dialogue with that person. Okay, so the importance of having compassion for prisoners, for people who are incarcerated, who have done terrible crimes, because they're suffering a lot, and because when they're in prison, they don't have access, much access to anybody who can teach them a way to deal with their suffering. And so they may sit there and stew in their anger or in their guilt or whatever, and plus it being a difficult situation to live with. And so that's why it's so important for us, in the work that we do with the inmates to really have a compassionate feeling for them. Okay. So, you're saying, of course you don't want anybody to suffer, but it seems like so difficult to do anything about it, and that it's going to take so much time and so much energy to get to yourself to a point where you have more capabilities to be able to help others. So then your mind gets discouraged because it's going to take so long and it takes so much effort. Okay? So to that I say, doesn't matter. Yeah, lots of time, lots of effort. You have lots of time, you can make lots of effort. What's the alternative to not doing that? Yeah, the alternative is, we sit there and basically suck our thumb. And the people who we can help, even right in front of our nose, right here and now, don't get helped because we're too busy feeling discouraged. Yeah, discouragement is a dreadful thing when you're trying to practice the path. Yeah, because not only does discouragement prevent you from actualizing your potential in the future, but everybody that you can help right now, you're totally oblivious to them because we're sunk in our own discouragement. Yeah? So we have to kind of look at that discouragement and see that, hey, that's just another antic of the self-centered mind. Yeah? And there's no reason to feel discouraged. We have teachers, we have teachings. The Buddha's descended in our world. We have all the tools. What's there to be discouraged about? Okay, it takes some time. But hey, even in your lay life, you put in a lot of time to develop different things. Yeah? So having to put in time, it's really not a problem. It's not like somebody saying, you have to be a bodhisattva by Tuesday or else, off with your head. Nobody's saying that, You practice in a way that's comfortable. You do things step by step. And then for sure, you're going to improve. Yeah, for sure. There's no way you can't. So it's a very good point that sometimes when we think of compassion, we set the bar so high. Like I have to walk around, if I'm really going to do this, I have to walk around all day feeling compassionate for everybody, seeing them all on the verge of falling into the lower realms and, having to save them. This is great if you want to be a savior, It's like if you're one of those people, in the victim perpetrator savior dialogue, triad. Well, this is great for you. Yeah? But, are you hearing? Yeah, but instead of setting the bar so high, and instead of thinking, I've got to have this meditation session where I just weep, out of compassion, to, let the compassion just grow in small steps. And as it does, it naturally increases, and then it comes out with respect to the people and the animals and the insects and whoever else happens to be around you at that moment, So it's not like being a bodhisattva means, she has this term, you don't have to win the Mother Teresa Award. Yeah, yeah. You can just be who you are, doing good deeds in your own life to your own ability. Okay. Okay, so let's dedicate.
May the spiritual
all teachers who lead me on the sacred path, and all spiritual friends who practice it, have long life. May I pacify completely all outer and inner hindrances. Grant such inspiration, I pray. May the lives of the venerable spiritual mentors be stable, and their virtuous actions spread in the 10 directions. May the light of Lao Tzu's teachings dispelling the darkness of the beings in the 3 worlds always increase. Duratna Mandala Kamniryatayami. Due to this merit, may we soon attain the awakened state of Guru Buddha, that we may be able to liberate all sentient beings from their suffering. May the precious Bodhi mind, not yet born, arise and grow. May that born have no decline, but increase forevermore. In the snowy mountain pure land, you're the source of good and happiness. Powerful Tenzin Gyatso Chenrezig, may you stay until samsara ends. May the deeds of explaining and practicing the Dharma, done by groups supporting the teachings and their upholders, who spread the view of dependent arising and non-violent actions in the 10 directions, and especially at Sravasti Abbey in the West, flourish.